Now, the BIS announced something last month called Project Icebreaker. You can go look it up. You can go right to the BIS website and look up Icebreaker. They have a video. You can probably find it on YouTube as well. And in this video, they explain what Icebreaker is. And they basically show a video of how you have all these different central banks with people underneath them, sort of like I explained to you. But the problem is, they say, the problem is that, we're in this connected world now. And so now we want to send money around the world. We want to send money to different people in different countries. But it's a problem, they say. It's a problem because it's very slow and it's very expensive because you have all these different intermediary banks and they don't all talk to each other. They're not all on the same technology. They're not all in the same time zone. They have different working hours, all these different things that make it very difficult to send money from one jurisdiction, one country to another because of this archaic banking system. So that's a good understanding of the problem. That's true. So they have a solution, of course, and the solution is they're going to create this Project Icebreaker, which will basically be a hub that all the central banks around the world can plug into this hub, and it will provide settlement of everybody. So one country could send in their money in their currency, and another central bank could send in their money in their currency. And in this hub, they could swap it out. So they go and kind of explain this. They say that they can solve this problem. They can take away risk. It can keep us safer. Whenever they're telling you they can keep you safer, always put your tinfoil hat on and go, whoa, they're telling me I'm safer. What am I trading for that safety? As Benjamin Franklin said, those who are willing to give up freedom for safety deserve neither. And so always think about that. So they're gonna do this. But in this announcement last month, there was a problem. And the problem is they didn't know how they would provide that settlement. They needed an asset that could sit in the middle, that could become that reserve, that neutral reserve asset. Now, if you listen to this show regularly, you already know that the private market has already solved this. You might also know that the private market solves everything. Now, some of you might have come up through government indoctrination schools and not understand that, but the private market solves everything. The private market comes up with everything. Now, it is true. I can already hear you guys in my ear. But what about the internet? DARPA created that. Well, it is true that, sometimes there are things that come out of like the military that then the private sector can take and build off of. So it is true. There are a couple of instances where the government has created something that come up with like a new building block that the private market has then gone and built off of. I will concede to that. But even in the instance of space travel, for example, yeah, the government went on this program to get somebody on the moon. They did, but the private market outcompetes them every day. The NASA can't even fly their own rockets anymore right now. It's going over to Elon Musk company. So the private market does that. Now, what about the roads? What about the government? Who will build the roads without the government? I always hear that one. Well, you might realize that it's actually not the government who builds the roads. What do I mean by that? Well, my tax dollars pay for the roads, and the government hires private contractors to go build the roads. So it's still private companies. I don't want to go dive too much into that. But the private market has already fixed this problem. Of course, we have Bitcoin. I can already send Bitcoin anywhere in the world almost instantly and free right now, today. I've been able to do it for years. Over the last couple of years since the Lightning Network has really scaled. And it's being done all the day, every day. I mean, tens and tens of millions of dollars are going to these cross-border settlements in El Salvador, in Africa, in Afghanistan, where you can't send money to somebody in Afghanistan because the Taliban will take it, but I can send them Bitcoin. Near instant and free. Anyway, I'm not going into Bitcoin rabbit hole. We're talking about what the CBDCs are doing and what the BIS is doing. So the BIS announced this, but they need this settlement layer. And so, boom, we found out what that was this week. And what am I talking about? Well, the IMF, remember, the IMF is the layer between the central banks and the BIS. The IMF announced something called UniCoin. UniCoin. Now, sort of sounds like a bite of Bitcoin. Sort of sounds like they took Bitcoin and tried to make it their own and came up with UniCoin. Because I guess somehow it unites us, potentially. I don't know. So they released this new global currency. It's a universal monetary unit, supposedly, and it is going to be this reserve asset that can sit inside of this Project Icebreaker and can be this reserve asset, or I should say the settlement asset that could exchange or trade these things. Now, this was a part of the Digital Currency Monetary Authority, the DCMA. They're the ones that launched this. Now, I had never really heard about the DCMA, and you might not have either. The DCMA just happens to be a group, sort of like a secret cabal of sovereign governments, financial institutions, banking institutions. It says here, a world leader in advocacy of digital currency and monetary policy for governments and central banks. Membership within the DCMA consists of sovereign states, central banks, commercial and retail banks, and other financial institutions. So, like I said, sort of like a cabal, sort of like a conspiracy, sort of like, I mean, do you even know what the definition of a conspiracy is? Two or more people getting together and discussing in private plans. So, they've been meeting. They've been setting plans. They've been conspiring. They're conspiracists. Is it a theory? Well, it's not theory anymore. It's fact. It's written here on the webpage. You can look this up. And they've come out with this, like I said, this Universal Monetary Unit, UMU, also known as UniCoin. It's an innovation in a store of value cryptography powered by artificial intelligence. Everyone's throwing around that buzzword these days. It adopts central banking monetary policy framework to ensure it has continuous purchasing demand, minimal price volatility, and annual asset price targets. Now, let me break that down for you. To ensure it has continuous purchasing demand. So how do they do that? A minimal price volatility. How do they do that? Annual asset pricing targets. How do they do that? Oh, manipulation. Of course. Of course. How can they make sure it has constant demand? Well, there's always a buyer. They will trade both sides of it. They will continue to manipulate markets rather than allowing markets to be free. Minimal price volatility. How? How can it have minimal price volatility, especially in a brand new asset? Brand new assets have volatility. Oh, they'll manipulate it. It meets annual asset pricing targets. How can they do that? Again, they manipulate it. In a free market, nobody can guarantee that. A free market decides what they want to use. Pricing is always the equilibrium of supply and demand. The only way they can achieve those goals is pure and total manipulation of the market, of the free market. They said, and in this universal monetary unit, they want to be able to enforce the rules of the monetary system. Now, that's a key word, enforce. What are the rules? Well, the rules are whatever they want the rules to be. Now, we saw the mayor of New York came out just yesterday and said that he wants to restrict meat and milk in New York. So, well, you can't buy meat or milk. So they want to enforce those properties. See how that works? They want to, now Biden has this new agenda for EV vehicles, so they could enforce that. You can't buy gas anymore.